So you will hear a lot of background noises. I do apologize, but this is the only place that I can record. So lesson 5.4, we're going to find the slope-intercept equation of a line that contains the points 3, -4, 5, 6. So what we're going to do, our first step is to find the slope. Okay, once we find the slope, we're going to write this formula that you need to remember, which is y equals mx plus b. And we're going to plug in values to find out one of the variables that we don't know, which is going to be b. We're going to plug in the y coordinate for y, but if you notice, there are two coordinates. I have 3, -4 and 5, 6. I'm going to choose 5, 6 only because they're both positive and I don't want to deal with the negative. But if you are adventurous, you can definitely choose 3, -4 if you'd like. So I'm going to plug in the 6 because that's what the y coordinate is. For m, we just found that it's 5. And for x, from the x coordinate, is also 5. And the only thing that we don't know is what b is. So b represents the y-intercept. And so we're going to solve this equation for b. 5 times 5 is 25. Subtract 25 on both sides and get -19 equals b. The last step is to give the final answer. So we're going to use this formula, slope-intercept form, but we're only going to plug in the slope that we found and the y-intercept that we found. And this is going to be your final answer. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to find the slope first. And this is going to be 4 over -7. And just double checking, 2, x2 minus x1. Yeah, unfortunately, we have this to deal with. So I'm going to plug in the values that I know. The y coordinate is 2. The slope we just found is -4 sevenths, and x is going to be 3. So now my job is to solve for b. So I have 2. I'm actually going to make this 14 over 7. You'll see in 1 second why I changed that to that. It's going to be -12 over 7 plus b. Now I'm going to add 12 sevenths to both sides. Hopefully now you can see why I changed the 2 to 14 over 7 to get a common denominator. And that will become 26 over 7 equals b. So step 3 is to write all the information down for the slope, which is -4 sevenths, and then the y-intercept that we just found, 26 over 7. Okay, at this point, I would ask you to try these two problems on your own. So I would pause the video, see if you can do it, and then play the video again to see how I'm doing it. Okay, so the first step again is to find the slope for each one. It's 8 over -2, so I got -4. And now I'm going to plug into the slope-intercept formula. And I'm going to use the second coordinate. And this one wasn't that bad. You just multiply by 0, so b equals 3. And then my final answer is y equals -4x plus 3. All right, next one, our favorite friend fractions. So we're still going to do the same thing. We're going to end up with a complex fraction. So we have -1/2 minus -1/3 over 2 minus 1/2. I know the denominator is 1 1/2. You guys know my little pizza pie trick. And the numerator, I'm going to have to find a common denominator. And that's -1/6 over 3 over 2. Remember, this is a complex fraction, so I'm going to write it in the way that I know how. I'm going to do keep change, I'm going to do keep change change. reduce if I can, and I can, and I get negative 1/9. So my slope is negative 1/9. So now the question is, what should I plug this into? I guess the second coordinate, because we have a whole number in there and everything else is negative in a fraction. So y equals mx plus b. Y coordinate is negative 1/2. Slope we just found. X is 2. And we need to find out what b is. So if you look at this part of the problem that I'm highlighting, you know that's going to turn into negative 2/9. So I kind of want to set up the common denominator right away. You guys know I'm a fan of doing that. So this 2 needs to turn into a 18. So that's going to be negative 9/18 equals negative 2/9 plus b. So I'm going to add 2/9 on both sides. But I'm going to just change it right away so I don't have to do my side work. So that's going to be 4/19. And so then that would be negative 5/18 equals b. Okay, so last step is to put everything together. So y equals negative 1/9 x minus 5/18. Okay, so the next lesson says find the slope and y-intercept of the line blah blah blah. So our goal is to solve for y, because once we do, we can get it into this form and then easily fish out what the slope is and the y-intercept. So we've done this before. I called this a literal equation where there's more than one variable. We have to solve for one of them. So if you recall in class, when we were back in class, I would put an arrow over what I'm solving. So I'm going to bring over the 3y to keep everything positive. So I'm going to put all the y's on the right side, and then everybody else is going to go on the left side. So I'm going to add x, and then I'm going to add 1. So I get 3x plus 5 equals, what is this? This is going to be 4y. So I need to still solve for y, so I'm going to divide by 4, and this was so important in class. Remember, I said I want you to divide separately. I know a lot of you are a fan of dividing by the whole thing, but that's going to mess you up here. So again, you know how I teach. I teach you for future lessons, and some of you take my advice and some of you don't. So this right here is important, that you divide separately. This is almost like no longer an option. Before it kind of was. So here, now we can clearly see that, oops, that's definitely, sorry. I don't know if I have a back button. Let's see if I can just erase it. Okay. So this right here, I can easily see that that's the slope and that this is the y-intercept. So I'm going to write that down as my final answer. Slope is 3/4 and the y-intercept is 5/4. Okay, same deal here. I'm actually going to add y on both sides because I want to keep the y positive. So I'm going to bring it to the left side. And then I'm going to subtract 4x so I can bring him on the right side. And this will be y equals negative 7x minus 1. Divide everything by 8 separately. Very important. And I get y equals negative 7/8x minus 1/8. So, because now it's in slope-intercept form, I know that the slope is negative 7/8 and the y-intercept is negative 1/8. Okay, so again, this is where I would ask you to try on your own. So let's see. For this problem, I would add 4x on both sides and subtract 9. And I would get 11x minus 9 equals 2y. Divide everything by 2. And I get 11/2x minus 9/2 equals y. And so the slope is 11/2, and the y-intercept is negative 9/2. Okay, so the next one, I have to make sure I distribute. So I'm going to make sure distribute first. And then I'm going to combine my like terms if I have any no, no like terms. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 3x. No. Sorry, I'm not going to subtract 3x. I lied. I'm going to add y to keep the y positive and then bring everybody else to the right side. So subtract 6x, add 1, and then this will be 3y equals negative 3x plus 3. Divide by 3 separately, and then y equals negative x plus 1. So then the slope is going to be negative 1, and the y-intercept is going to be 1. Okay, so the next lesson is the same thing, except the problems are a little harder. And what we can do is the LCM trick that I've taught you. So I'm going to find the LCM, which is 6. And then you can do the side work for this. Then you'll have 2, x plus 1 equals y plus 6. So I'm still solving for y. I'm going to distribute the 2, and then I'm going to subtract 6 on both sides, and 2x minus 4 equals y. So our goal was to get into that form, and then the slope is 2, and y-intercept is negative 4. Alright, so this problem is the same as before, but obviously it looks way more intimidating. So I'm going to do myself a favor. You can distribute the half if you like to. I'm just wondering if I should or not. Yeah, I'm not going to. So what I'm going to do is put 3x minus 4y on the top and 2 in the denominator. And then I'm going to write the rest of the problem. So now that I've done that, I can go into the LCM trick. So I'm going to multiply this by 4 and then multiply this by 4. So 2 goes into 4 2 times. So I have 2 times 3x minus 4y plus 4 goes into 4 once. So that's 2x minus 3y. And then 4 goes into 4 once. So that's x. Y times 4 is 4y. And 1 times 4 is 4. So I have all this stuff I need to distribute. So I'm going to distribute. And then after I distribute, I'm going to combine like terms. So after this, combine my like terms. 8x minus 11y equals, I guess, yeah, there's no like terms on the other side. So now I'm going to add 11y to get the y on the right side and bring everybody else on the left side. So then that's going to be 7x minus 4 equals 15y. So I'm running out of room. I'm going to go up here now. Just copy that over. And I'm going to divide everything by 15. And that will be 7 over 15x minus 4 over 15 equals y. So then the slope is 7 over 15, and the y-intercept is negative 4 over 15. Okay, so the next two problems are more complicated. So I'm going to just distribute the fraction first before I use the LCM trick. Alright, so now I'm going to multiply everything by 15. So that's going to be 3 times 2x minus 3y plus 5 equals 10x minus y plus 15. Alright, so that was a lot of work. Let me just double check that I did that correctly. Plus 5, 3, 5, 10 minus y. Okay, great. So now I'm going to distribute. This is 6x minus 9y plus 5 equals 10x minus y plus 15. I'm going to add 9y to both sides to keep it positive. And then I'm going to subtract 10x. And then subtract 15 on both sides. So this is going to be negative 4x minus 10 equals, what is this? 8y. So I'm going to divide everything by 8. And this is going to be negative 1 over 2x minus 5 over 4 equals y. And so then the slope is negative 1/2. And the y-intercept is negative 5/4. Okay, so the next problem, I want to talk about this part right here. So we know that's pizza, right? So that's going to be 2.5, and we know 2.5 is 5 over 2. Oops, that's kind of messy, sorry. So that's 5 over 2. So for this part of the problem that I'm highlighting, this guy right here, so that's going to be x plus 1 over 5 over 2. So I'm just going to kind of do some side work here. And when you do keep change and write it the way that you know how, it's going to turn into 2 parentheses x plus 1 over 5. Okay, and you can do the work for that to help you out. So I'm going to distribute this 2 in the original problem, and that's what I get. And then from my side work here, I'm going to do 2x plus 2 over 5. So that's my new problem. I'm going to multiply by the LCM, which is 5. And I'm going to distribute. So this negative 10x plus 2y equals 2x plus 2. The y is already on the left side, so I'm going to add 10x on both sides. And then this is going to be 2y equals 12x plus 2, divide everything by 2, and somehow this became all whole numbers. So this is 6x plus 1, so the slope is 6, and the y-intercept is 1. Again, I apologize for all the background noise. This is just something that I could not prevent.